Teacher goes on a racist rant directed at the Hispanic policeman who pulled her over for driving while using her cell phone. Is it me, or has the Biden presidency brought the liberal Karens out of hibernation? I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start in Los Angeles, California, where a woman claiming to be a teacher was captured on video having a complete racist meltdown against a deputy who pulled her over for a simple traffic violation. And again, explain to me, what is it that's happened in this country? Ever since Joe Biden questionably won the election, and Donald Orange Man Bad was banished to Florida, where he belongs, you would think that the left would have relaxed. That their superhero Biden, right? We call him Depends, the super depends guy, right? They've got the man they want in the White House. They've got control of the House and the Senate, and yet you would think that they would relax a little bit, but no, they're behaving like bigger children since he's been elected, if you could believe that, than they were before.
You see, they will never quit.
They
must never stop fighting.
Stop being Karens.
Because it will never end.
And we remember a couple months ago on the Dr. Duke Show, we said this is not fair. Karen is an incredibly white name, right? And for black Karens, we use the name Shaniqua, right? A couple months ago on the Dr. Duke Show, we coined the phrase. If you're going to call white women who think they're all that and a bag of chips, if I may go back to the 1990s.
Yes.
What is the word for black women who think they're all that and a bag of chips? We call them Shaniquas. And I'd like to introduce you to the most recent Shaniqua. Roll tape.
I pulled you over because
you're a murderer.
This confrontation started as a traffic stop. A San Dimas sheriff's deputy pulling a woman over for allegedly using her phone while driving.
And can you call your supervisor, please? Because
I already did. He's on his way.
Good, because you're a murderer.
Okay.
Perfectly legal, and I'm a teacher. So there.
Congratulations.
Murderer. You're a murderer.
What's that? Hold that still for me.
Okay, murderer.
And that's it. Here you go, ma'am. Sign inside the red box right there.
For him being a Mexican racist. What is that name? Gasso.
It's on the citation, ma'am.
Here you go, Mexican racist. You're always going to be a Mexican. You'll never be white. You know that, right? You'll never be white, which is what you really want to be.
I mean, the level of arrogance. I mean, she makes the white Karens look almost like people you wouldn't date them. But still, that's pretty bad. And so black Shaniqua drives a white car. That also always freaks me out, right?
Does it?
Well, hey, they're the ones who are so race conscious about everything. You know, you could say to Shaniqua, you could drive a white car, but you're always going to be black. You understand that, Shaniqua? Boy, and let's give that Hispanic police officer a round of applause. Handled that like an absolute pro.
Well, here's the thing you have to remember about this. That man, that cop, just like every other cop in LA County, all across the nation, get that on a frequent basis. This isn't a one-time, wow, he acted cool. I don't know how I would have acted. He's used to it. He's so accustomed to
you know why?
Having this happen to him.
That is black privilege right there. You could pretend all you want, right, that in this evil country of ours, that privilege is a white thing. That right there is a classic example of black privilege.
Well, the sad truth about this whole thing, too, is that her kid, I believe, was in the vehicle, or at least she talked at a later clip about it, about her kid. The fact that she, like, the first thing out of her mind is, I'm a teacher. Like, as if that gave her street cred to be able to
like
talk
all of a
like
sudden
that. Like,
you're thinking,
well, I'm a teacher. Like,
you're a teacher? Then you clearly need to use your cell phone in the car. I didn't know, ma'am. Forgive me.
And we're not sure because she still hasn't been publicly identified. But the Los Angeles Southwest College actually said on Twitter that she may have been a former employee of theirs, and then she would have last worked at that college. Supposedly, maybe, we're not fully sure, back in 2017. So it makes you wonder, is she currently a teacher?
That's a Shaniqua move right there. You haven't worked in 5 years?
Maybe.
But you're a teacher, right?
I'm a teacher.
4 years. It's been 4 years since you actually worked, but the Shaniquas of the world. And Joe, thank you so much for so much unnecessary unemployment extensions, right? People like Shaniqua, because of you, Joe, slow clap for Joe, too, because you're allowing Shaniquas to be Shaniquas.
And on top of it, the fact that she was taping like while driving. That's a very privileged thing to do.
It was.
I mean, the fact that she even could have a phone because she's so, downtrodden in life, but she had that nice, I couldn't tell if it was an iPhone, probably an iPhone.
It's all legal. And I'm a teacher. Well, it's as if the poor, and I'm wondering if that's Ponch from Chips who pulled her over, right? Hello, Mom. Wouldn't that be great?
Stop. It was not.
And you suddenly the camera sways. Dun, 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 dun.
Stop. We're not bringing Chips back.
I want to know if he was a CHP. That's all I want to know.
Here's the other thing that's important to know about this. From their station, San Dimas station.
San
Dimas station, where he's coming from, they don't have body cams, right? He purchased one with his own money and got that body cam because of Karens like this, or Shaniqua's, because of these types of incidents. What else are you going to do? Cops are so hated everywhere that you're lucky he's even out on the street trying to help.
And notice the thing that of all the things that she does that bothers me, that she should have to suffer consequences for, is the racial stereotyping. I mean, just because she's a black Shaniqua does not give her the right to engage in this kind of racist attack on this poor cop. I mean, you'll never be white. What an assumption that is. Because he's doing his job and keeping the city streets safe by pulling her over for being on her cell phone. He wants to be white. That if that had been anything but a Shaniqua who said that, there would be serious ramifications for using that kind of racial language.
But she assumed he's Mexican.
That's the other thing.
How dare you?
Exactly.
And obviously she assumed he's a murderer as well.
A murderer. That doesn't bother me.
You're a murderer. Okay.
That doesn't even bother me. That's just Shaniqua being Shaniqua. But the racist aspect of this is what right. And she did not. How does she know he's Mexican? What kind of assumption? He's a Mexican murderer. You are a Mexican murderer who wants to be white. Grow up, Shaniqua. I would say that, but then again, Shaniquas never grow up.
Well, on the Shaniqua front, or the Karen front, or once upon a time we used to call them Nancy's, but that was for being little sissies. But like,
you called boys Nancy's if they were behaving cross-gendered.
I'm thinking all the names the women's names that poor women who were actually named that and are not awful human beings like this. Well, once was California professor. We'll get to this.
Right. And again, we don't know. We will not be like the Shaniqua. We will not try to determine her race, but she's somewhere floating between black and white, it would seem. Go ahead.
So a Zoom call, because we always have Zoom calls now. Zoom. So a student decides to just defend the police, like in general, like the profession of being a police officer. And of course, the professor's only option is to vehemently. She disagreed so hard, and then because she disagreed so hard and so bad, she will have lost her job by the end of this.
We did a show earlier in the week about Florida considering a bill.
Not considering. I mean, they passed it.
The governor has to sign it, which would allow college students and I think public high school kids too, to film their teachers without even letting them know in order to fight bias. This is exactly why those laws are being considered. Watch what our smug little professor, how she behaves with one of her students.
I think cops are heroes and they have to have a difficult job, but we have to have that
all of them?
life. Oh, I'd say a good majority of them. You have bad people in every business and every part.
Yeah,
well, wait,
a lot of police officers have committed atrocious crimes and have gotten away with it and have never been convicted of any of it.
Who do we call when we're in trouble and someone has a knife or a gun?
I wouldn't call the police.
Why wouldn't you call the police?
I don't trust them. My life's in more danger.
Who would you call?
In their presence.
Professor, who would you call?
I wouldn't call anybody.
Well, would you have, if someone intruded your house with a gun, would you have a gun on you, or
no.
Who would you call?
It's my time to go.
So now we know. Murderous morons near Cypress College, you know that Farah Salim, an employee at Cypress College, isn't going to call the cops when you show up at her house with a gun or a knife. In fact, what she'll tell you, it's time to leave.
Incorrect. She's no longer employed by there. She's on leave. So
smoking.
So the school's response to this was that she's an adjunct professor, will be taking a leave of absence for the duration of her assignment at Cypress College. This was her first course at Cypress, and she had previously indicated her intention to not return in the fall. So couldn't even make it through one semester on Zoom because of this.
Again, notice this. Notice the very dangerous cisgendered white male student.
His name is Braden Ellis. Braden.
What a white guy name, right?
19 years old.
Notice, just like the Mexican cop or the Hispanic cop we just saw, notice how he handled it like an absolute pro. Didn't get flustered, but notice how the amount of inferential guesswork on the part of these teachers. All right, what is she saying? That there are what was the word she used? Many or a lot of cops who have created heinous crimes who have never been convicted. This is purely made up out of her own head. Utterly made up out of her own head.
Replace it with there have been many professors who've committed academic
or there are
malpractice.
many black males who have committed crimes against any of that stuff. But she makes these. There's no. It's the exaggerated hyperbolic lies of the left that no one's even bothered challenging anymore. Of course all cops are killers. Of course all white people are systemically racist. The fact that we are allowing ourselves to be bullied into not fighting back about those circumstances, he had that kid, that police officer, that's how you do it. You give it right back to them.
And what's so brilliant about this entire thing is that Braden he had just given a presentation, and it was on cancel culture, and he said why it's so destructive and that it's tearing our country apart. And then this was the Q&A part, and that's what the professor immediately goes to. So you could even see in the exchange that they had, she was not listening to what he was saying. She was waiting for her time to respond. She had no intention of listening to what he's actually saying and reasoning. She's just biding her time.
And when you look at the two of them, which one comes across as like the spoiled child? It's not Braden, right? It's not straight boy Braden. It's not with his good posture and his nicely combed hair. He's not the privileged spoiled one. He's not the frat boy baiting you because you have an Islamic name. He's not the frat boy teasing you because your skin color is darker. He's not the racist monster, cisgender monster that you idiot college professors see when you look at white men. You're the problem. You're the one with the issues, Farah. You're the one who's intolerant and bigoted and judgmental and racist. But you can't see it because your critical race theory allows you to take the high road because you have skin color one shade darker than his.
The one thing that I'll say about this, and we didn't show this part of the clip, is when she talks, she brought up at the beginning of her, before she went on her tirade, talking about, what's our history? This whole issue is systemic. And she's using all the terms that professors usually do. And she said, going back to what another classmate was talking about, what does it stem from? It stems from people in the South wanting to capture runaway slaves. So she's doing this and going all the way back. But that, I don't know if the other student who was then on camera actually says, well, I still disagree with you, Braden, but I will never say you don't have the right to say it. So the two teenage boys, both white, who disagree with each other on the issues, still at least say, you know what, you should be able to say it. And here's the professor acting like she is.
That's just white boys sticking together in their privilege.
That's probably true.
This is the only thing she can get. She goes all the way back to the slave era and talks about authorities rounding up running, and that's where it's a bald-faced lie. It is historically inaccurate. It is completely untrue. It's been utterly debunked across the board. But how many of these idiots still believe the Charlotte slander, right? How many times can you prove to these women and demonstrate to these professors Donald Trump never said what you think he said? In your mind, in the collective leftist psyche, Donald Trump said that Nazis were good people. And there's no amount of truth, no amount of history that's going to change that. Why? Because your ideology is about power. It's not about truth. What that young boy did was tell the truth. What the Mexican, potentially the Hispanic police officer did in the previous story is tell the truth. And that always, when you watch somebody telling the truth and somebody lying in the name of progressivism, it's not hard to figure out which side you should be on.
Well, we have another story about an elementary teacher being under fire after you're reading basically racist books about how cops hate blacks and, all this stuff. That's just blatant lies. Again, not the truth. So art teachers are getting in on the action here. Parents of 4th and 5th grade students at Sturchy Elementary School in Knoxville, Tennessee complained that the art teacher taught a lesson on racial inequality. Pretty
There
soon
you
it's going to
go.
be the gym teacher, which probably already has happened.
Thanks to progressivism and radical leftist critical racist theory, art is elitism.
That's
Art
a good
isn't
point.
truth, it's not
True.
beauty. Art is not, this is complete elitist talk, right? And so we're not going to spend our time looking at beautiful paintings or talking about aesthetics. We're going to use art class to fight the struggle of social justice.
Knox County School Superintendent Bob Thomas actually said that we're aware of the situation because the parents complained. We're aware of the situation. This book, because it was a book that the teacher taught, is not approved for use in our curriculum. And I have asked our Human Resources Department to investigate the matter. Now, this book in question is called Something Happened in Our Town. And it talks about a black man who was killed by police and how parents can talk to their kids about his death and racism and race inequality. And, here's the book being narrated for the class.
In another house, Josh asked his mother, "Can police go to jail?" "Yes," said his mother. "Why do you ask?" "That white policeman who shot the black man," said Josh. "Will he go to jail?" "What he did was wrong," said his mother. "But he won't go to jail," said his father. "Why not?" asked Josh. "Cops stick up for each other," said Josh's brother Malcolm. "And they don't like black men."
Now go back to that picture. I'm sorry. Part of the problem, we talked about this book before on the Dr. Duke Show. This is part of the problem, right? They would have you believe that it is utterly normative to have a black father in the home with a black son, with the mother, and they're playing chess. They want you to believe that this is normative. And unless you acknowledge it as normative, you're somehow kind of being a bigot. And this is the false narrative. These are the false ways that these so-called awakened books, these woke books do, to go ahead and try to undermine culture. And so, I think the teacher, the parent here is being way too generous. The parent did not want the teacher fired, did not want the teacher punished. She just wants the art teacher to teach art. And what kind of chutzpah is it that you're an art teacher? Not only are you not teaching art, you bring in a book that has not been approved, that they're not even reading in English class, and you make the kids spend time with this to prove to them that whatever cops do, they're never punished for. Also a false statement. Is there going to be a footnote in the book now? Finally, Chauvin. Right? For the first time in American history, a police officer went to jail for doing a bad thing. I mean, it is so maddening.
I figured out why that book should be shown in the art class. Because if you saw towards the beginning there was a cop and they were coloring it in. So that's art class right there. Oh. So now
the kid
it's
did
relevant.
have a crayon.
There was a crayon in the book.
Between playing Grandmaster Chess with his father, he had a crayon. Right.
You're so elitist. They're thinking they couldn't. But the elementary school supervisor, Adam Parker.
Well, no, the implication is it's kids like that who color and play chess with their dad. They're the kids getting shot. That's the implication of that. Or the dad, right? That's the dad. Go back to the picture one last time, Mike. There it is. And that's the implication. That's the dad that gets shot. The dad that's sitting there in his Bill Cosby sweater playing chess with his...
Wow, is that what?
Chocolate pudding pops. That's Jerry Lewis meets Bill Cosby. All right, give me that at least. That's the dad. That's the George Floyd that got killed.
Okay, so in an email, elementary school supervisor Adam Parker indicated that there's going to be a plan to retrain teachers on sensitive material.
Wait.
I love how it's always called that's sensitive material.
Wait.
But penises and vaginas, let them all out.
You're going to retrain an art professor, retrain her
a fifth
to teach art?
Elementary art teacher.
You're going to retrain her to teach art, which she's apparently not capable of doing. And why are you going to punish her for injecting this into an art class? Because I can pretty much bet you, if I was teaching art to fifth graders and I started teaching them, I don't know, biblical interpretation, exegesis, right? Okay, here in art class today, we're going to go through the epistles of St. Paul. Are you ready? That would not be winked at.
You could just have them color along as you're talking.
Or play chess.
There you go.
It's time now for some real education. Have you noticed all show today? Every one of our shows today was about petulant, childish, off-the-rail teachers. It's, by all means, mom and dad out there, go ahead. Email me about why I'm too hard on teachers. It is never ending. It's time to balance that out with a little real education. François-Marie Arouet, I believe is how the French would pronounce it, 1694, born late in the 17th century, lived all the way through the Enlightenment period, known by his very famous nom de plume. Before there was a Cher, before there was a Madonna, there was a Voltaire. And he was a bad ass when it comes to social commentary. So let's take a look at today's quotes from Voltaire. Quote, Animals have these advantages over men. They never hear the clock strike. They die without any idea of death. They have no theologians to instruct them. Their last moments are not disturbed by unwelcome and unpleasant ceremonies. Their funerals cost them nothing, and no one starts lawsuits over their wills. We may consider ourselves the more highly evolved species, but when it comes to animals, I mean, there are certain things that they do way better than we do. How about this quote? Love truth, but pardon error. Love truth, but pardon error. Is it fair to say that modern progressivism is exactly the response, the opposite? Love the lie and pardon the truth. How about this? Despite the enormous quantity of books in this world, how few people read? And if one reads profitably, one would realize how much stupid stuff the vulgar herd is content to swallow every day. How few people bother to read anything at all. And most of my freshmen in high school, college, none of them read. Despite the enormous quantity of books in this world, how few people actually read. And if you were a careful reader who reads for profit, how much would you realize how much of what people do read is completely stupid and vulgar to begin with? How about this next quote? The most important decision you can make is to be in a good mood. That's not bad. The most important decision you can make on a daily basis is to be in a good mood. And finally, very famous, s'il Dieu n'existait pas, il faut inventer. If God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him. That has deep, deep, deep consequences. The mostly atheist philosopher basically recognizes that if God had never existed, mankind could not have survived without inventing him. That without the idea of God, civilization could never have moved forward. That's a heck of an observation.
That has put me into a good mood. Now, just a quick reminder to please download our Freedom Project Media app. All you have to do is search Freedom Project in your app store. And if you enjoy our content, please support us by joining the Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation allows us to bring you all these happy and not so happy stories every day. Simply visit patriotclub.us and we're going to ship you a free signature tumbler as a thank you when you sign up. Now we want to take a moment to show some love to our current Patriot Club members. And today we're giving a shout out to Jared from Gillette, Wyoming. Or is it Gillette, Wyoming? We don't know, but thank you, Jared, for supporting us.
Gillette, the best a man can be. And that's you, Jared. And that wraps up this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, shave it close, Jared. Shave it real close.